Good morning. Welcome to the Tech Grid. My name is Tammy Schiller. I am Strategic Partnerships for NOCWD, as well as the Director of the Tech Grid. So thank you for joining us today for this Sbir 101 workshop. Thank you to Kate Kenyatta for setting this up and hosting it at the Tech Grid. We're really happy to have you guys out here. And for our folks online, thanks for joining as well. So to kick this off, a few logistics. If you aren't aware, restroom is the middle door in the back. Hold the handle down when you flush. And we have snacks and then drinks. We have water and sodas in our refrigerator. So to get us kicked off this morning, I just wanted to give like a brief overview, my opinion of Sbirs. I think they're an easy access way for us to work with our small business partners. The great thing about NavAir Sbir program is we really do an intricate job of aligning our topics with our strategic focus areas. So what that means for small business is that gives more of an opportunity for your Sbir topic to go into phase 2 and phase 3, because we're looking for longevity. I know that there's other departments, commands, other Sbir programs out there. And from my experience with the Sbir program, which I used to be in Kate's position, a lot of them don't set up small business to go into phase 3. So they're just like generating the topics, not really looking as, will this be viable beyond phase 2? And I think that NavAir, especially NOCWD, does a really great job of working with our TPOCs, refining our topics to make sure that they align with the strategic focus areas that we're looking for. In saying that, we've had a lot of success. I think Kate will probably go over a couple of success stories in her demonstration today, or her presentation. And you will see that we actually have a lot of success going into phase 3 in the NavAir Sbir program. Rather high, I believe, compared to other commands. Is Thomas joining us today? Do you know? He's not, okay. We were hoping to have Thomas Hatch Aguilar on here today. He has had multiple Sbir topics that have gone into phase 3 and have been very successful going into the Air Force and beyond, and gone international. I believe on one he has some UK partners. So just want to encourage everyone to enjoy the briefs that are going to be presented today. Learn. We have Angela Watson here from Apex Accelerator, and she just gives a great presentation on what small businesses need to do to set themselves up for success when they're proposing for a topic, and also through the duration and the life cycle of the Sbir. So looking forward to you guys today. I'm going to hand this over to Devin Segovia, and he's going to just give a brief Tech Grid overview and go over some of our upcoming events. So hopefully you'll join us again here at the Tech Grid and virtually for those upcoming events. Over to you, Devin.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Devin Segovia. I'm the Community Program Manager here at the Tech Grid, and I'm very excited to have you guys all here for this event today. This event is the whole point of us being here. We're trying to get smaller businesses closer to the government, and so that they can work with them easier. So we are very excited to have you guys, and thank you all for showing up here. So we have a few more events coming up soon. Our DLS, you see our poster back here. It's coming back this month on the 26th of January. That's going to be on Monday, the 26th. We're going to have Phil Barron coming out. So he's going to give us a great presentation on what he's been working on, and he's also going to take a tour on the base. And so on Saturday, we also have our drone camp for junior high age students, and that's going to be here at the Tech Grid as well as on base. We're going to set up a bunch of cool, we're going to set up our drone cages, we're going to set up flight simulators, we're going to set up a bunch of cool games for these kids to play, and they're going to get to learn the use cases for these certain things, and then they're also going to get to go on base to see how it really works. So thank you guys very much.
So I'm going to introduce Kate as she makes her way up. I just want to let you guys know. So the TechGrid is our innovation hub. The partners are on the banners here on the wall. We're partners with Future Labs, Griffiths Institute, B3K, and Saracoso Community College, as well as the City of Ridgecrest. We are here as far as on the government side to help small business and mid-tier businesses with their technology transfer. So anyone online here in person, we are here to help. We can be used as a gateway to help you with technology transfer or to get you in touch with those government folks that you're looking to do business with. So Kate Kenyatta is the Sbir Sttr coordinator for NOCWD.
Okay, you don't get to hear from me just yet. I'm going to introduce Angela Watson from Apex Accelerator. She's going to have a brief, she's going to present. Pull that up for her. So I just put all your files in a folder, and then if you want to open them, and then this is already hooked up, should be good to go.
All right, wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
Kate, how do I expand this to the? Okay. That'll work. You guys see it okay? All right. Okay. As Tammy and Kate both said, I'm Angela Watson. I'm the program manager for the Golden State Apex Accelerator. Our program has been around since the mid-'80s, and we are a national program funded primarily by Department of Defense, now Department of War, and we are set up as centers who are hosted by nonprofit organizations, sometimes states, sometimes universities, or a nonprofit that could be a private entity like ours is. We're hosted by the Kern County Builders Exchange, and we serve regional areas to help businesses connect with government buyers. So help you figure out who buys what you sell, how does the government buy, what kind of contracting vehicle is being used. If you're an innovator, you know, what pathways are there. So we're going to talk about kind of an overview of all of it, but we'll definitely focus on the innovation side since that's why we're here today. But our area that we cover is Kern, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties, but we are one of 8 Apex accelerators that serve the state of California. So if for anybody that's watching or in the audience that's outside of our service area, there is an Apex accelerator close to you that serves you, so please feel free to reach out to any of us. There's also some information in the slides which are able to be shared you know, for anybody that needs additional info. Okay, so just a quick little, you know, overview of how we kind of engage with businesses. We help you figure out who buys what you sell, like I said, do the market research, what resources are out there, distill it down, because anybody can go and do Google searches and you know, really learn that. But one of my clients said it in a really good way. He's like, we're very capable people. We can figure this out, but if it's going to take us 10,000 steps to figure it out on our own and, you know, 1,000 with you, we'll take the you know, less steps with you, you know, help us get there faster. Even with that said, it still takes a lot of different steps. So understanding how to source bids and contracts, breaking down those solicitations, understanding what's in them, evaluation criteria, anything involved with government contracting as in sourcing, being prepared to engage with government buyers, positioning yourself properly, understanding past performance, subcontracting opportunities, anything like that we can help point to resources, help you do the research, help businesses really understand how to do that. And on the after award, the post-award side of things, understand how to manage their contracting relationship, engage with the contracting officers, understand criteria of you know, competition and protests and everything. So kind of the full gamut. And we work very closely with all of our community resource partners like TechGrid here, and you know, of course, with NAVC, NAVAIR, and all of the military installations within our service area, which include not only Navy, but Air Force and Army, and we can connect to other military departments as well, but we also help with the state and local procurement folks. So if you're somebody that's not ready to do federal, but you're looking at state and local, we can help with that as well. Okay, so high level of GovCon 101, and then we're going to talk about innovation programs. I know Kate's going to be talking about the SBIR Sttr 101, so I'm going to skip over some of those slides, but you guys have them for anybody that does want to take them away. And I'll get into more of the specifics of just generally understanding program resources and different types of innovation programs that the government's using. Okay, so something you should have in place is if you're an established business, not just the idea of what you want to sell, but understanding that you have to have all of your licenses in place, have your filings complete with the state, be a legitimate business to sell to government buyers. And again, this is the government contracting overview, not specifically the innovation. So this is the broad version of this. You have to be capable, competent, and reliable as a seller to government buyers. And if you think about it, as a small business, that's hard because it sounds like so many barriers. But if you think about it from the taxpayer point of view, you don't want the government to gamble with your money. You want them to be placing, you know, your taxpayer dollars, putting it to work with people who are going to get the job done on budget, in time, capable, competent, reliable contractors. So does your team have appropriate past performance? Do you have a business plan that includes government contracting? You should also be somebody in the space that's trying to expand into government contracting if you have a commercially successful business already. You should know what you do well and what the government could benefit from buying from you. So whether it's a good or service, you should be able to do it well already before you approach government buyers. Please. Absolutely. So a lot of times small businesses, and the question was, how do you get past performance? How do you get in, how do you open the door to get into government contracting if you're a small business and you don't have it? It's kind of, you know, catch-22 is what it sounds like. And that's a great question. A lot of times it starts with subcontracting. So as a small business, you can perform part of a contract under a prime contractor. So the prime contractor is the primary contract holder with the government buyer, and then there can be sub contracts underneath that. So building relationships with prime contractors can help you build past performance that can then lead to your own prime contract opportunities as a small business. So that's one way in. Another way in is simplified acquisition thresholds. So if it's under a certain amount of procurement goaling or spending, then there are simplified acquisition procedures where you can pretty much just provide a quote, and if you are, again, marketing yourself correctly and you're showing that you're still capable, competent, and reliable, then they can buy from you. So it still takes a lot of marketing and positioning and building relationships on your part as a small business, just like it does in the private sector. And you're building those relationships and building rapport with government buyers as well. But there are different pathways in. Sometimes a small business just needs to start with their local government. So starting with your local city, school districts, water districts, anybody that government-wise is spending taxpayer dollars to procure goods or services that has authority to spend money and a budget, they can be your government buyer and your foothold into bigger contracts along your journey. Does that answer? Cool. Okay. Last bullet point here, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but something a lot of small businesses don't think about early on is, can you afford to sell to government buyers? And what that means is a lot of times the payment schedule can be longer from government. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be processed, a lot of checks and balances that have to be done, because again, they need to make sure that they're spending the money wisely. There's a lot of justification that has to be done. So it can take longer that way. If you're putting out 15 laptops to whatever government office, you have to be able to afford the cost of those goods before you get paid sometimes, or it can be at the same time. So you might have to have a line of credit, or you might have to have other types of reserves in place. And if you are out working on a job site, if you're in construction or some kind of other service type of industry, you have to be able to pay your labor while you're waiting for that project to get done, and then the government to pay the invoices. The other part of that people don't talk about is invoicing properly. When you're new at this, and especially if it's something with public works, prevailing wage type of requirements, there's going to be new information that you have to submit in an invoicing method that you haven't done before. So it could take a little bit longer to get it right the first time, which then delays your payment. So just some things to think about, having those lines of credit and reserves in place for your business health to stay in good shape. All right, talked about who in the government are your targets. That's really important. It's not, does the government buy what I sell? Because even when I've thought that somebody calling in was like, oh, that's probably a slim chance. There was a boutique bakery. And I was like, well, I'm not sure about that. Lo and behold, we do our market research, and there's a government office in the state that just said, yeah, we want somebody in our lobby to sell, pastries and things. And so she got that contract. Just the wildest things, goats grazing on government lands. Of course, anything having to do with our military, whether it's nuts, bolts, Kevlar, vehicles, raw materials. There are so many things. Here, there are vehicles purchased to put out in the test range to blow up. So there's everything that the government buys. But you do have to narrow it down and figure out who are your primary buyers, so you're not just spinning your wheels, and then how do they buy, so you know how to approach them. So it takes a lot of homework. Understanding your buyer, and in the government side of things, they're getting so many people that come to them and just want to sell. It's like, I'm a small business. I'm, historically you would hear oh, just get your certifications, your 8A small disadvantaged business, your woman owned or your vet owned. That is kind of a, I would say that's clickbait in a way, because you have to have a solid value proposition. You have to really deliver and be solving a problem for your buyer before you're going to be competitive and be able to be the right solution for them. So understanding their needs and being able to present to them how you're going to provide the solution, or maybe something innovative or more cost effective, all of that is understanding your buyer, and it really takes some time to do that. If you already have relationships, or you already know about topics on innovative requirements, that's great, because they're saying this is exactly what we need. Bring us solutions. So in the innovative space, it can be a little bit more cut and dry, but that's not always true. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so contracting vehicles, how do they buy what you sell? Just a couple of definitions or words that might get thrown around. So you hear about federal supply schedules, GSA, the set aside, so shrinking the pool of competition for certified companies to be able to compete. Simplified acquisition, I mentioned those simplified acquisition, lower thresholds before. Indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, multiple purchases on the same contracting vehicle over time. Commercial goods and services. Commercial items are purchased differently than customized. So commercial off-the-shelf goods versus customized. You also have broad agency announcements, SBIR, STTR, other transaction authorities, and that's all in the innovative space, which we'll talk about here in a moment. The government acquisition regulations and contracting vehicles. This, I know you guys can't read this from up here. Again, you're going to get the slides, and there is a link. The Defense Acquisition University, DAU, is a great resource for training. They offer a lot of free training too. And this cone talks about a lot of different types of delivery vehicles and different ways that the government buys. So there's a lot more up there than the average bear typically thinks of or sees in their engagement with government purchases or acquisition. So it's a good resource to understand more about how the government buys and how your business might fit into overall acquisition that maybe you hadn't considered. On the section of blue, those are everything that's under the federal acquisition regulations. So federal acquisition regulations means the rules that the federal government has to follow when they buy stuff. and everything in the green section are outside of the FAR. They have been authorized for other types of transactional authorities. So that includes OTAs, that includes CRADAs, it includes other types of fast innovation purchasing besides SBIR, STTR. SBIR, STTR does fall within the FAR side, the Federal Acquisition Regulation side. So very specific rules that have to be followed for how those dollars are spent with the agencies that have SBIR, STTR programs. Okay, so I think I pretty much hit on a lot of this. There are resources to find the market research, how you look back and see who buys what you sell, and looking at current opportunities to understand the language and everything that's being used so that you can match up with your buyers and understand them properly. I'm going to move through this. Breaking down the bid package. Is it an invitation for bid? Is it a request for proposal, RFP, request for quote? Is it just a sources sought or request for information? All of these things are different ways that a government entity or government buyer could request information from industry. Sometimes it includes pricing, sometimes it just includes tell us what you can do and what your capabilities are. So understanding what you're looking at and being able to break it down is a huge part of it too. And I would say practice it several times before you try to go and bid or respond initially, and utilize resources like us to help you do that. Okay, I'm going to skip through some of this and get straight to the innovation side of things. Okay, so again, all about preparation, knowing your targets and your value proposition. What do you do well? How are you going to solve that problem that your government buyers have? Sorry, this is the summary page. I'm going to get through that and go to this is what I wanted to do. Mentioned this already, the different sources between the innovation programs. As far as some of our innovation programs that you've probably heard about, SBIR, STTR, RISE, which is the Rapid Innovation, it's under the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Programs. It used to be Rapid Innovation Fund, which is RIF. That was done away with. RISE is the new version of that. DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, Ensign, NSIC, ARPA-H, ARPA-E, all of these things. I'm not going to read them all off to you, but just knowing that there's so many potential pathways in innovation programs, it can feel really overwhelming. So how do you figure out what the right pathway is for you? Take some research, take some help from organizations like us and like the Tech Grid here and the people that they're bringing in and bringing together. Pay attention to all those. The more you can interact with the people who are doing this type of work and who are trying to connect with you, the better off you are. It can become or go from this very nebulous kind of vague thing that you're like, well, how do I do this, to having a conversation, and then it's like, here, this is an open door. This is how you do it. Yes, the only constant is change. So I will say that that's a great question, and the SBIR STTR program has been around a long time. The funding has been paused as far as like current funding approval or authorization, as last time I looked. Yeah, still same. Okay. So waiting for that reauthorization to come up. They're anticipating it will, last I heard. And all of the programs, the 11 agencies that participate in the SBIR STTR, so Small Business Innovation Research, Small Business Technology Transfer is what those stand for. Sometimes you hear Sbir, Sttr, just for a faster way to be able to say it. But for those programs specifically, we're waiting for the reauthorization. Well, how is that going to change? Well, with the Army, you just mentioned, they're changing their whole acquisition and rapid response innovation. I think you're going to see that from all of the different agencies, departments, and sub-agencies, but that's not really different, because even right now, if I tell you that Department of Defense is one of the 11 agencies, federal government agencies that participates in SBIR, STTR, and then you break it down to the different branches of the military, and they each have their own program. And then you break down the Navy, and the Navy has 11 different buying commands, so which ones are also participating and have their own budget. It's really about getting to the level of your actual buyer and decision maker and understanding them, because they're going to do it differently than maybe National Institute for Health or the National Science Foundation. They all have different, even though it's under the SBIR STTR heading and program, it's still different by agency and then sub-agency. So yes, and it's all different now already. No, unfortunately, I wish I had that answer. I think some folks hoped it would be part of the latest, giant bill for defense acquisition, but it wasn't included in that just yet, but it's still, I know, being discussed and on the table. Okay, so I'm gonna skip these because I know Kate's gonna talk about eligibility. Okay, so some things that you really want to think about with your SBIR or STTR in general. Where can it end up? The commercialization of it. Is it just for government, or is it also for private sector? Are you an innovator looking to solve a problem just for the general public, for the greater good? Is it something that's health related? Is it cutting edge? Is it an idea that's, well, maybe it'll sell on Etsy, or maybe it'll sell on QVC or something? Or is it something that the government can use and has a reason to help you invest in to develop, and then it'll carry over to that commercial sector too? So maybe it's like GPS started out that way. So, there's so many applications that when innovators start thinking about what they can do, thinking about it in both spaces, and even getting your potential buyers and their buy-in lined up is really important right off the bat. Knowing where it can go, it entices both government and private sector investors. So that's something to really think about as an innovator. Again, does a participating agency have a particular problem that you can solve? Do you have the bandwidth and current capital? Do you have the facilities that you need to be able to conduct any lab research or tests? Do you have the team in place that has the expertise to be able to complete the testing, all the different phases of, proving your concept? If you're in phase 1, if you're in phase 2, it might be the commercialization. Have you talked to those companies? There's so many different pieces to it to think about before you get into the actual application and, really trying to solve that problem. They want to know that you're thinking that far ahead, because that's who they want to invest in. It's highly competitive still. I mentioned, as far as like your team for internal, your market research and solicitation review, who's on your team that's going to help you do that? Are you a good writer? Are you just really good with the tech and the specs and the engineering? Do you have a principal investigator identified? Is it you as the business owner? Are you going to have to bring in somebody from a university? How is that going to work for you and your team? Technical and functional experts, somebody that's watching your budget, helps you understand how you're spending the money that you're going to get in the SBIR STTR. You have to present a budget and how you're going to spend it and what you're going to do with it, and they need to know that you've thought through all of these things. And your proposal and work plan, of course. Scope of work, what you hope to accomplish, what you hope to approve. External can be your commercialization, reviewers, just to get another set of eyes on your proposals. So does it make sense, or am I speaking in all, techies? Can the average bear read this and understand what I'm trying to do, or am I using way too many acronyms? Those are things that you should consider as well when you're submitting a proposal. Legal support, something people don't often think about until too late. Understanding your IP rights and responsibilities, understanding your rights and responsibilities when you're working with the government, when you're working with partners. Maybe you're partnering with a university or another organization to bring your idea to fruition. Who's going to be able to take the tech forward after this part of the agreement? Those are all things that you want to have in place, and legal support is going to help you define that from the earlier steps. Okay. One way to figure out which agencies are, have the problems that you want to solve is to review past awards and prior topics and solicitations. So on sbir.gov, you can search. They've actually really improved their search functionality. There are a little bit of tips and tricks to make it work for you, but you can search past awards so you can find out, has this been a topic of interest before, or am I really doing something new? Was this something that was of interest to the government 5 years ago and I'm a little late because I just don't see it commercially in the private sector? Am I too far ahead? Maybe they're not ready to spend money on this. Or have they already accomplished what they want to in this particular tech area and I'm not really bringing anything new to the table? All of that are things that you can find by past awards market research and past topics or solicitations. You can also look on your individual agency sites. So sbir.gov is kind of an umbrella site, and then when you get to the agencies that you think you're most aligned with, then you're going to go to their individual site as well and understand how they operate very specifically. Okay. Thinking about your timing, you should have a work plan that gives you several weeks and if not months to plan out your process and what you plan to accomplish with your team at each stage. This is just an example. It changes depending on your topic, your tech, your agency that you're wanting to work with, but just having something that's very outlined so you can have a plan to follow, because a lot of people come up against that timeline and it's a crunch at the end, and then you did all this work and run, and then you don't get it in time or don't have the team in place and it gets rejected. So really having it well thought out in advance is important. The other thing that this shows is different agencies have different timelines. And this is an old slide. So this is just to make a point that different agencies have different timelines. For example, Department of Defense has started, and I think Navy in particular has started dropping new topics every new first Wednesday of the month. Was that it? It was before the current pause. So, but that's going to be different than NSF or NIH, which they might just do it once a year or twice a year. And you have to know what the lead up time is, if there's pre-award information, if you have to submit a letter of interest before a white paper, before a proposal, what is their process and what's the timeline that you need to have as your on-ramp. You're fine.
Good, man. You just need a microphone.
This is good to have interaction. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a great question. That's a great question. And I think that the best way to answer that is to know which agencies are providing acquisition forecasts. So the acquisition forecast, the Navy actually is one group that does it really well. Not all of them do. But they will provide an acquisition forecast for their projects and what they want to spend their money on for the next fiscal year. And when you look at that and the website for the individual agencies, SBIR, Sttr, or other government innovation programs, if they have funds going towards that, they will outline, these are the things that we're most interested in. They might not tell you like, okay, well, you only have this time to this time, but if it's directed energy and you're somebody that works with directed energy lasers, then it's like, oh, they're spending money on this. I need to go talk to them. I need to be aware of what's in their radar or on their radar this year to spend money on, and then keep an eye on when those topics come out. Normally, I would say waiting for sam.gov, which is very, very common, but that's the reactive approach. And one of the things with government contracting, I've heard it said from RSM Federal, which has been in the space for a very long time, not specifically in innovation, but just across the board in government contracting, they say 70 to 80% of your preparation should happen pre-solicitation, so pre-topic. And it's knowing what the agency is most interested in spending money on, looking at what they've spent on the past and how does it align. And then the other part of that is there are some agencies that also allow for like a zero phase or like a phase zero, which sometimes can be like an open topic or a white paper. There are also either consortia that will be able to provide some maybe a little additional direction, but I would say that the resources here today for defense side and the other resources like TechGrid, so there's FathomWorks over at Port Hueneme, there's other Naval X kind of tech bridges all over, Army X, and again, all of the different branches and their innovators have kind of their own process and own way of doing things. So it's building the relationships, paying attention to the events like this, and then knowing when their schedules are coming out. Unfortunately, right now, with it being paused, I don't have a great answer for that. But I would still go to these individual innovation sites under, like you mentioned, Army's, how they're revolutionizing, how they're buying, and their innovation side of it is part of that. I would say the entire Department of Defense, Department of War, and each military branch underneath it, and all of the support agencies underneath it as well, are coming up with strategies on how to bring innovations to warfighters faster. So it's a little bit Wild West right now. I'm talking about Sbir, Sttr, because that's what we're talking about today, but the other government innovation programs are out there spending money as well. So don't limit yourself to only that. Pay attention to this, make the connections, and look at what other opportunities might be coming up. One of the ways you can do that is follow all of these agencies that I'm talking about on LinkedIn. Because if they have an event, whether it's virtual or in person, and you can connect with them and ask questions, that's what they're putting themselves out for. And it's been in a way more recently that is way more engaged with industry because they really want to bring in non-traditional, not just the primes. They recognize the agility, innovation, and opportunity that small businesses and non-traditional contractors can bring. So it's a lot of different areas, and it's hard to put your energy in so many different areas, but this group, FathomWorks, following them, getting their newsletters. I've got a little one-pager that I'll send out too that has like, in case you haven't visited this site, check this, this, and this out. So I'm compiling it as I get more of those pieces of info, but again, they change all the time, so I want to keep it a little bit general, but I would say just really trying to do pre-solicitation forecasting, understanding that, and if you're not sure where to find that, that'll be on that one pager too. I'll make sure you guys get that. Sure. Okay, definitely talked about a lot of this already, so I'm going to move forward. Okay, so understanding who you're dealing with in the Sbir, Sttr environment and the agency that you're wanting to talk to. You guys are really lucky because there are technical points of contact who are going to be participating today. Tammy and Kate and their team have always been awesome about bringing those folks in to engage with industry. That is not something that happens everywhere in all of the different Sbir, Sttr programs. And I mentioned technical point of contact, TPOC. That is what this particular agency calls their point of contact for Sbir, Sttr for the topic author. It could also be topic manager, program officer, director, national program leader. So understanding the lingo, and part of that comes from understanding the broad agency announcement. So BAA is usually what you're going to find as far as like the rules of engagement, the rules of play for even submitting a proposal, for how you can interact. Don't just focus on the individual topics because that's only part of the overall. That's like, the granular part that's most important to the businesses that are engaging and proposing. But the BAA, if you don't read that, you're going to miss something and you're going to get rejected because you won't have followed the directions required for you to submit and be compliant. Okay, so one of the other questions, can you contact them personally? The first time I came out here, I think it was 2 years ago, and did this presentation, I said, don't call them, don't sell yourself to them. Like, You should find out if you can contact them personally, but be very succinct. Don't try to like make them do your job for you by telling you whatever. And the TPOC got up and said, actually, we want them to introduce themselves. We want to know who they are so that we can, it's not so much of a cold call or cold proposal when we see it. We want to understand more about their capabilities. So it's okay to reach out if you're allowed to contact them. Some agencies have, sorry, I keep talking with my hands and hitting the mic. I hope that's not picking up too bad. Some agencies have periods like pre-solicitation period or pre-proposal period where you're allowed to talk to the TPOC, you're allowed to reach out to them for a couple weeks and ask your questions about the solicitation. If something in there is vague, maybe it was meant to be vague because they want to know what solutions are out there that they haven't thought of. Or maybe it's vague because they want you, or they can't encapsulate everything that they want to see come in within the language. They don't want to direct it too much, or it could be something where they just didn't think about it when they were writing it, and that's why it's vague. It didn't come across as clear as they thought. So any of those reasons could be really clarified for you with a conversation if you're allowed to make it. And sometimes that means we're thinking about handling it this way or this way. Does either of those, are you able to tell me if either of those aligns more with the outcome that you're looking for? Like you can position things that way. But again, I will say don't ask them to do the job for you of like, if you haven't read it in the BAA or the topic, don't ask them questions that should be answered in there. That is, they're already spending extra time outside of their normal job to do the Sbir Sttr program. So make sure that you're very respectful of their time and try to get to the point and build a little bit of knowledge about your business so that when your proposal comes across, they can see, oh yeah, I talked to them. They were pretty spot on with their questions, and that's interesting that they put it in this way. I hadn't thought of that. But engage if you can. Not all agencies will allow you, so engage if you can, but be thoughtful about it. Okay, so went over that. So again, don't ask questions that are addressed in the solicitation. And this last bullet, I just want to point that out. Don't talk too much because you learn when you listen. So give them the opportunity to speak, even though you're going to be so excited to tell them all about your ideas. They can't always give too much info, but whatever info they're allowed to give, listen so you can take it in and take good notes and then apply it in your proposal. Okay, again, with your team, your most important individual is your principal investigator. So for different programs, there might be a requirement that the principal investigator is an employee of your team versus others where you can bring them in as a consultant. So make sure that you understand that and build your team accordingly. Your team doesn't have to be large, but does have to have the qualifications to fill out all of the requirements to fulfill the what you're planning to accomplish on your proposal. I know I'm coming up on time, so I'm going to wrap this up quick. As far as supplementing your team with consultants and subcontractors, just use them to the extent allowed and understand if there's a percentage that you cannot, or if it's going to throw off your participation. Just understanding all of that ahead of time so it doesn't throw off your proposal or really throw off your team or your rights or ownership after the fact. Finding candidates, check with your personal network, of course, LinkedIn profiles, and then universities, career centers. We have some great tech universities, tech-oriented universities in our service area, and just obviously in California in general, but along the Central Coast and out here, there are so many good programs that are really putting innovation and entrepreneurship at the forefront, and there are incredible students and faculty that you can work with that you can find through those avenues. Okay. For this, I'm just going to say that there are specific IP data rights that are part of a clause within Sbir Sttr program, within the FAR in that program. You need to understand that and make sure if you have access to an attorney or maybe a subject matter expert, which you can find through us just to ask some questions. We've also got some really good just online webinar, like on-demand resources that go into more nitty-gritty. So if you're going to pursue this path and you want to know more about that and what to kind of pay attention to, reach out and I can get you connected with that info. But just know that it's not an obvious one way or the other. You have to know how to mark your documents if there is something that's confidential, proprietary, and you should know that ahead of time so you're not trying to like fix a mistake after that hamstrung you. Additional resources, I mentioned sbir.gov, Apex accelerators, again, we're nationwide. Small business development centers, if you're still trying to figure out your business plan or, figure out where you might fit into the overall commercial space, government space, if it makes sense to enter one versus the other. They've got incredible consultants as well. Women's business centers do the same thing. Veteran business outreach centers for any transitioning veterans. They're such a good resource. We work closely with all of these groups. And SCORE is actual direct mentorship from business owners who have retired and are looking to mentor new businesses. So there are also those for innovative companies as well. So just some things to keep in mind. And are there any other questions? I know I skipped through some things, but as I said, didn't want to take up more than my time. And I know we've got some additional folks who are coming up to share about the very specific program criteria for working with like the actual Navy out here, NOCWD, and their SBIR program. So I want you guys to have that time. Any questions? Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for asking all those questions.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very eye-opening. Like Tammy mentioned, I am fairly new to this role, taking over for her. She's moved on to some bigger, maybe not better things, but some bigger things. Getting to know the Sbir program has been pretty great. Let me pull up my slides real quick. This is a pretty awesome program. Getting to know some of our TPOCs and the work that they're doing with our small businesses. And let's be real, the TPOCs and the people that are have day jobs and that are helping out with this program, it wouldn't exist without them. So, shout out to those folks. All right. Maybe this would help. All right, so I'm going to do just a very top-level overview of Sbir Sttr. So Sbir, Small Business Innovation and Research, Sttr, Small Business Technology Transfer. It's two highly competitive programs, typically receive on average 15 proposals per topic, and then they award 3 per topic. So it's a 3-phased award system. It's the primary vehicle through which DoD funds small companies to perform innovative research and development projects. For Sttr, the small businesses partner with a research institution like a university, a nonprofit, or a contractor-operated, federally funded research and development center. So that's the difference between those two. So what's the purpose of the program? It's to drive technological innovation by leveraging small businesses to meet our federal R&D needs, to promote participation of socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses, as well as those 51% women-owned in technological innovation, enhance the commercialization of innovations derived from federal R&D, boosting private sector involvement, foster increased competition, productivity, and economic growth through these innovations. Thanks, Dev. Sorry. I'm used to sitting behind a desk all day, so I'm glad it's a small group here today. Ooh.
There it is.
You're the IT guy now, I told you. Okay. I'll move closer to it. I won't touch it again. All right. So this next slide is kind of a chart that outlines, I know it's a lot to look at, but it's an overview of how the program works. All right. Nobody move. All right. So the agencies release topics via the BAA, as Angela was talking about earlier, typically 3 times a year, but that's changed. I think they're releasing topics now monthly, but everything is on hold, like you were asking about. Everything I'm hearing is saying that they anticipate that it's going to be reauthorized, the program's going to get authorization. They're just waiting. So the BAA details the process for small businesses to submit proposals to the topics published. Following submissions of proposals, agencies make contract awards to small businesses based on these 4 pillars: the technical merit, the degree of innovation, qualification, and future market potential. The small businesses that are selected for a contract award then begin a 3-phase program. So phase 1 is the concept phase. There isn't an actual anything being produced other than the exploration of the technical merit or feasibility of the idea of the technology. Usually in the phase 1, I think that's what we talked about, how it's usually 3, right? 3 companies are selected for that. And then of those 3, it's narrowed down to 1 for phase that move on to phase 2, and that's the prototype development phase. That usually lasts 2 to 3 years. During the time, the R&D work is performed. And then in phase 3, the innovation transitions. So no Sbir funds support the phase. The small business must find funding in the private sector or other non-Sbir federal agency funds that can be continued for the development. Okay. So this is this kind of breaks down the 3 phases. So in phase 1, there's an option for additional money, so you can get up to $240,000 just for phase 1. And then in phase 2, it could be a total of $2 million. And phase 2 is up to 2 years, so you can see this timeline. This is also kind of a busy slide. Because we got people online.
Are these just the NavAir structure or this Sbir in general? Is there any difference between what you guys are doing and timelines?
They're different. So this is specific to NavAir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Phase 3 on expired other service Sbirs and stuff, right? Is there a length of time you can no longer award a phase 3? So if I wanted to like take an old proposal and say, hey, this company can help me with this, right?
So I don't know if there's an expiration on that, because I've actually just recently had somebody reach out to me about that, about going back to an old topic that was successful. Angela, it looks like you have an answer to that question.
From what I understand, any phase 3 award can be made on prior phase 1 or 2 awards. So as long as it is advancing the prior work done.
So you do like a direct to phase 3 off of that as long as it advances the original?
Yes, as long as it advances it, and it doesn't have to be in the original intent. It can just take what it is and advancing it further. It could be a different intent, from what I understand. But also, phase 3 dollars are not part of the phase 1 and 2 pot.
Right.
So they kind of they behave as a little bit of a different animal, but they can only be awarded based on a previously awarded phase 1 or phase 2 being advanced. So.
Got it.
Sorry, not to let you get through this slide. For NavAir, y'all mentioned that going from phase 2 to phase 3 was pretty common. And previous slide mentioned that the funding for phase 3 comes from various sources. How does that typically look for NavAir?
So I don't know how common it is. I'm mostly involved in the phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 3 kind of moves off my plate once it gets through that phase 2 part. Tammy, for sure, probably has seen a lot more of that. So I'm going to let her answer that.
So we have a high success rate for Sbir 3s. Like I'm not saying like every phase 2 goes into a phase 3, but we do a pretty good job here. As far as funding, it can come from anywhere. There is no limitation on the amount of funding. There's no limitation on where it comes from. As long as you can get a sponsor, whether it's government, whether it's commercial, whether it's like from a program of record or another government command, it can go on the phase 3. There's really like no limitation almost to the phase 3s. And as far as, like, I agree with it, you said it perfectly, so I'm not going to build off of what you said about the phase 3s expiring. As long as you can build off of phase 2 and it's a phase 2 that's still viable. One thing we've come across is people go through and they do a search for a phase 2 that they want to build off of, and they'll be like, I found this phase 2 from like 2008, and I'd like to build off of that and go, make a phase 3 from it. That's not going to happen for the most part, I'm going to say, because of the time length from like 2008 to 2026. Probably a lot of technology has advanced since then. So as long as what you want to build off of is viable, is current, mostly current, there shouldn't be a problem. But like I said, I've had people that have like dug in the trenches and found an old Sbir, and it's like, well, we need to create a new topic for that because the technology has advanced so much since it was originally proposed. Hope that helps.
Oh, wait, Tammy.
Thank you. Kate, could you talk about when do contracts go into the catapult phase? I think it's 2.5. How do you go from like phase 2 to 2.5, and when does that happen versus going into phase 3 as an alternative?
So in a catapult would be where you are on the right track and you're getting there, but you've run out of funds, and then you can submit. There's a process, right? With you'll submit like a quad chart, and that goes in for a review to get additional money. But you have to show that you're on the path and you're making progress, and the added funds will help you get to the finish line.
Yep, and Kate's right on track. Also, if they've run out of time. So it's time, funding. It's just that catapult to get you into the phase 3. I think it was originally, to help companies get over the valley of death, which we don't like to say anymore. But that's why it's catapult. It's catapulting you into phase 3, so you can finish up whatever project you need, whether it's time, funding, or any kind of additional resources. And there's like the 3 different enhancement, expansion, and catapult. You have 3 options. Like Kate said, you present a quad chart, and then there's like a board that votes on, like, is this viable? Can we move it forward?
Yep.
Okay. When do you anticipate the Sbir Sttr for NavAir to reopen to accept new proposals? Will it be in 3 or 6 months? Do you think it will be open this year or next year?
That's a great question. I do not have the answer. I would anticipate it would be sometime in the next few months once the budget resolution is right past this end of January situation. But again, I am in no part of that, but that's what people are, the conversations that I'm hearing. So hopefully soon. What was that? Yeah, exactly.
Right to your congressperson. One more question. What do you recommend small companies do to prepare for that eventual reopening?
Well, just stay connected to the topics that are, you can go to navysbir.com. There's a lot of information there. So like Angela was saying, stay connected, be proactive. What kinds of topics are coming out? What kinds of technologies that you think that you could align with and support and fill those gaps for the government?
I'm going to build off of what you said.
Do it.
So that was a great answer. And I think having Sbir 101 workshops, attending workshops like this, even though the reauthorization hasn't passed, what Kate's trying to do is create this environment to educate small business and to open up those opportunities so that when the reauthorization passes, you guys are ready, you're prepared, your company's prepared, and you guys can move forward as quickly as possible. I think the other, like, write your congressman, just like Angela said, that's really important. But I do think it's, like Kate said, it's within the next couple months or few months. I do see it getting reauthorized. I would be surprised if it doesn't. But yeah, just stay tuned for what happens next. I think, there'll probably be some sort of widespread announcement that goes back that it's been reauthorized. But plan, right? If you have a product, know its intention. We just had a T3 open house here, and that was one thing that we were slapping the table on with our companies is don't have a product and come to the government and say, what can I do with this? What do you think you guys can use this for? Create a product with an intention. Create a product that's aligned to the Navy or a command requirement, right? So I think that's one thing. Get your house in order while the reauthorization hasn't been passed. Know what your products are. Know how they, do your research. Know how they meet the capabilities of the warfighter and the fleet, and then you're on the road to success.
All right, so I saved this last slide I'm going to throw up here this was from a brief that I had done previously, and one of our panel members who wasn't able to participate this afternoon, this was he was the TPOC for this specific topic, and it was a small business that was awarded and went all the way to phase 3. I'm sorry, I keep stepping away from the microphone. Sorry, Dev. I told Tammy last night, I said, anytime I can talk about plasma sheaths surrounding hypersonic aerial vehicles, makes me feel really smart. So I'm going to do it. So this is the topic. The objective was to develop an effective radio frequency communication system solution for communication through the plasma sheath surrounding a hypersonic aerial vehicle. And then the description was hypersonic flight creates a plasma sheath around a vehicle, causing a radio blackout, hindering communication and navigation. The objective was to develop and demonstrate a method to mitigate the blackout, enabling continuous communication between a stationary or mobile platform and a hypersonic vehicle throughout its flight. Innovative solutions, such as aerodynamic shaping, magnetic windows, or liquid injection, are sought to eliminate radio frequency communication disruptions caused by the plasma sheath. So I'm a business major, but I still kind of get the gist of that. It's pretty cool. So phase 1, the goal was to develop and model concepts for reliable GPS and radio communication through the plasma sheath of a hypersonic vehicle operating between 1.1 and 5.6 gigahertz over distances up to 20,000 kilometers. This includes analyzing performance, size, weight, power needs, culminating in a prototype plan for future development. So we get that phase 1 is really just a concept, a plan, how we're going to make that work. Phase 2, develop a hardware prototype based on the phase 1 design, demonstrate the prototype's radio frequency communication capability, and characterize its communication performance in a terrestrial plasma chamber to establish proof of concept. And then for phase 3, fully develop and transition the radio frequency communication system based on the final design from phase 2 for naval applications in the areas of reliable and error-free radio communication with hypersonic aerial vehicles. So I'm really a visual kind of person. I apologize for reading off the brief here. As I do this a little bit more, I'll probably get a little bit better. But to me, this kind of example just kind of speaks to the meat of this program, right? So it spelled out what the objective was. What we did in phase 1, was that successful? Yep, so we got picked to go to phase 2. That was successful, ended up in phase 3. So ideally, right, this is what you want to look for. So I, again, want to thank my TPOCs and my panel that's going to come up here. We're going to take a quick break and kind of rearrange. And these are folks that we have somebody that's going to dial in, and he is from a small business, and he's going to have that perspective from the Sbir program. And then I have some TPOCs, people that have contributed to some of the topic generations. And so we'll have kind of a good mix of people that can answer some questions and have some good dialogue. So, and as I kind of step into this role, I have a good philosophy. I don't have all the answers, but I certainly know how to find them. And I would definitely stay connected to the TechGrid. TechGrid has a great website, and they post upcoming events and things like that. I'm sure when Sbir gets picked up again, that'll probably be one of the things that is highlighted on the website. So that'll be a good place to look for that information too. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and rearrange. As Tammy mentioned, there's drinks, there's a fridge back there if you guys want sodas or anything, and some snacks, and then we'll resume at about 10:30. All right? Of course. I will do my best.
Okay. Can you talk about the nexus between Sbir/STTR and the new acquisition approach undertaken with Other Transaction Authority, or OTA?
Do you have a...
Can you talk about the nexus between Sbir/STTR and the new acquisition approach undertaken with Other Transaction Authority, or OTA?
Yes, I can do that. So Sbir is a program where the Navy submits topics that align with our strategic focus area, that maybe it's a task or a project that we are not able to get to. Right now with the government shutdown and DRPs, we've lost a lot of our civilian workforce. And so a lot of times our folks have projects that they don't have time for or potentially funding. And so it's our opportunity to work with our small business partners to accomplish those tasks. For an OTA is for prototype and development, essentially, and it's a way to partner with the government where, so for instance, we use like the NASC down at PAX, and so we would submit a statement of need. I actually just got off a meeting about this right before. So we would submit a statement of need, throw it out there to the NASC, which is the OTA consortium out at PAX, and then companies would give us their white paper or respond to that statement of need, and then we select the companies that we want to work with. The difference is that Sbir, that program provides the funding for, the Sbir program provides the funding in phase 1 and phase 2 for a feasibility study and for the production of the product. Where an OTA is, you have to, the government is providing you the funding. Like NOCWD would be providing the funding to the small business rather than the Sbir program. So I think essentially that's the difference. The government has more, like essentially buy-in directly with an OTA and the company it's working with, where the, like I said, the Sbir program funds phase 1 and phase 2. Does that answer the question? Yes, yeah, and we can also do individual OTAs that are not through the NASC. They're a little different kind of roadmap to take, where with the NASC we are able to just throw in our statement of need, not necessarily throw it in, but put it over, and then companies are able to propose. Doing an individual OTA, it's a different roadmap that we're lining out for NOCWD. Our contracts folks are amazing, and they have that experience. I'm not an expert in that, but I know that we can do individualized OTAs.
I would just add to that not all buying commands have other transactional authority. So not all of them have authority to spend funds that way. Some of them have been given that authorization depending on need and depending on probably their use of other programs and funds like Sbir, STTR, and other funding innovation pathways right now.
Right, and just had a discussion this morning with someone on base who has a problem, right? They asked, how can the Sbir program benefit this problem that I have? And so it's just like that. They don't necessarily have the funding from their program to address the issue. So their option is to throw it out to the Sbir STTR program and ask our small business partners for help. So that's essentially what it is. And I think Angela said it perfectly. And there was one thing I wanted to add, but I can't remember what it was. But anyways, hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Tammy.
Oh, I know what it was.
Oh,
sorry.
I knew it was going to come to you.
Yeah. So as the Navy, as NOCWD, we are trying to follow the Secretary of War's intent on rapid acquisition. And you will see, I believe, all over, everyone will be starting to do more OTAs. A few of us had a conversation this morning. OTAs are more flexible. They're for prototype and development, which we have a lot of that going on right now. And then, we throw it over to contracts when we get into production. I believe we are going to see more of this model moving forward through the Navy, and we're really excited about that because we will not have the hurdles that we have experienced in the past.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break and we'll resume here in about 15 minutes.
Hi everyone, I'm Pat Feddick. I'm a research chemist here at NOCWD. Primarily work with the topic mass spectrometry, so analytical instrumentation, and then a lot of automation on how we make energetics faster, cheaper, better. And relation to the Sbir and Sttr process as a topic generator.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris Stockwell. I'm the division head for mission planning and offboard mission systems. It's going to be a mouthful. Within the Integrated Spectrum Warfare Department, a lot of EW stuff, but mostly our division focuses on mission planning systems. We do have some offboard stuff too, but it's all predominantly software. And most of this Sbir stuff we've been working in the past few years, right? I've been doing it for, I don't know, since like 2010, but the past few years has been focused on like automating and cloud development and also trying to do like image recognition, like really tech savvy type computer engineering stuff. That's me.
So I already introduced myself, but I will give my relation to the Sbir program. So strategic partnerships. So I kind of work both sides of the gate. Different teams, projects will come to me, let me know their deficiency gaps, their head herders. I reach out to industry, get these folks together, and hopefully we develop a partnership. With the Sbir program, I was the coordinator before Kate, and as you all know, since the government has opened up and really wants to partner with small mid-tier businesses, kind of getting away from doing business so much with the primes, that part of my job has just been very like nonstop. And it's great. It's great to see these partnerships developing. So Kate nicely took over the Sbir program for me. But, and so it really, part of my job is utilizing the Sbir program, what's appropriate for that. Sometimes I'm searching out Sbirs for industry. They're like, here's what we do. Can you help us find a Sbir? A lot of times it's a CRADA, it's an OTA, it's a contract. We just had our artist program, and I was comparing all of our rapid acquisition to dating. I don't know how that went over with leadership, but yeah. So CRADA is kind of like, hey, let's get to know each other. We're gonna like see how we can help each other out. If it turns out that we can actually do some serious stuff and we want to make a financial commitment, then we'll go into an OTA or a contract. If it's nothing and we're just like, hey, we're not sure about this, but hey, we have this really great Sbir program where you can help us fix some of our problems.
All right, so I came up with some questions, unless you guys have things that are off the top of your head that you want to ask this group of people. I did come up with some things last night that I thought would be good topics of conversation. So, anybody have anything? No? Yes. Here you go. I got you. There you go.
And I should know this, having agreed to come here and wanted to come here, but Tech Bridge, can you explain the relationship? Is it
Oh, yeah.
Is it government? Is it private? Is it
So it's nonprofit.
nonprofit?
Yes. So started.
So are we right now. So we're trying to get past that.
Thank you for asking. Everyone knows I love to talk about the tech grid. So started this effort in mid 2022 because China Lake is geographically challenged, and I had been working with industry and working with other tech bridges. I realized like we need that here, right? We need to get our industry partners locally, and we need a spot to do it that's on the outside of the gate, especially at NOCWD. It's very hard it's not an easy process to get badging, as like some of you know. It's not like you can just show your CAC and go anywhere, right? We have different requirements for access areas. So did my research, went out, visited several innovation hubs, private, Air Force, went to SoftWorks for SOCOM, and went to probably 6 or 8 different tech bridges. And my goal was to find out what the secret sauce was, like what made some successful and what made some fail. Like there was an AFWorks in Las Vegas that was probably one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen. It's now closed. So what makes that happen? And basically in a nutshell, it's your partners. It's making sure that you partner with the right companies, the right, having the right academia partners, and everyone has to have buy-in for the Innovation Hub. So went on that effort, and it was quite a journey. The partners that I thought I was going to end up with did not end up with them because we couldn't find that click, right? Like maybe they were on the East Coast, maybe they were focused in a little something different, and they wanted us to fit their mold, and it was like, this just isn't working the way a real partnership should. We have fabulous partners now. I'll just go, so Saracoso is our academia partner. They get their students in here. Tim Randolph had a cyber hackathon in October. And we're just trying to really ramp up that recruiting from Saracoso into NocWD. So TechGrid is a pipeline to do that. Future Labs is our administrator. They're a partnership intermediary with NocWD, and they run the day-to-days here. Couldn't have this open or the lights on without them. Griffiths Institute, they've helped, actually Dr. Fedek here, with a lot of internships. They've been a huge pipeline for us to be able to get more interns here through their Viceroy program, and I think another program, than probably we've had in a while. And they've made it run very smoothly. And then B3K Prosperity is a Build a Better Bakersfield. They're an EDC from the Bakersfield area. So they keep us in that innovation and aerospace pipeline, and they're helping us to bring industry into these doors. Griffiths and B3K just helped us out with a T3 open house. So T3 is technology, transition, and transfer, where we brought aerospace, or like, UXS companies in, had a presentation day and a networking session, and then we took them on base to show them, like, this is the capabilities we have, here's our needs. We took them over to our unmanned IPT, and they were able to give them a list of head herders. So we just want to be that bridge for either academia, industry, government, to bring them all together to help us network and help develop those partnerships. And it's been very successful. We had our grand opening March 25th, 2025. And it was just a great day, because I had been saying for 2 years, like almost 3, like let's store this furniture and this equipment that people aren't using from the base, and I'm going to put it in a C-van, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to open up a tech bridge, and people were like, oh, you're so cute. You're so funny. And I mean, that stuff sat in a C-van. Some of our equipment here that was left over from the earthquake, it was going to go to Dermo. I'm like, nope, I'm collecting it and I'm putting it in a C-van. And we were able to, when we got this building on March 1st, and we did a bunch of renovations, set this all up, took everything out of the C-van, and we had a tech grid and did our grand opening 24 days later. So thanks for asking.
It's Tammy's labor of love, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about topic generation, since we don't really have our heavy TPOC folks here, or small business aspect. So from a topic generation point of view, how do you identify what you think is an important need or gap that we need filled? Like, is it you're, lighting fires in your lab one day and you're like, hey, I need this, or, or are you actually actively, it comes up in conversations with other folks? Is it more focused on your direct work or people around you?
Yeah, it's kind of a culmination of everything. So, Angela had a really good point about, seeing where, for small businesses, where the base is going, but you could also, from the research side, kind of see where we're publishing and patenting and things like that. So there's a topic that will come out eventually when it opens back up. I won't go into the super specifics of it, but it's a particular sensor, and they have these portable sensors everywhere. But we now want to put it on a unmanned vehicle. So, you know, we're experts in those sensors, and there's other experts in UAVs, but merging the two of those, it's going to take way more time and effort for my team to go and do that, and we don't have the expertises in here, and we'd have to go team everywhere else. But this is probably a really great topic for a small business to, you know, get that team in, and really go and solve that problem, and they could probably do it a lot faster than me trying to get everyone together and get the funding together for that. I'd say the other aspect, and it was brought up as well when we're looking at some of these topic generations of, you know, for that sensor, for example, okay, great, you know, now I can drive the UAV right under a wing of an F-18 and sample, you know, something like that. So some of those might come from requests we have from the ranges, like, hey, we found this weird goop on something. Okay, well now rather than sending someone into that area that we don't know what it is, okay, you send the unmanned vehicle in and do that sensing. And then I guess the other aspect of it too, when we try to put these topics together too, is, okay, if you're the small business and you're going and you make this platform for us, right? Who else are you going to be able to sell it to other than like us? You know, is there like a bigger need? So in this particular idea, oh, well, you could put that on a oil refinery rig and, you know, sense out leaks, or, you know, so there was other vendors in there. So that's kind of what we try to think of when we're generating it. Okay, here's, you know, where we need to transition our research or a problem that got brought to us from the range or something else like that. And then also, how does it help, you know, even we try to put some effort into how would it help you guys as a small business, and what's that market is, or is it just something that's solely DoD that's going to be a small niche, you know, application?
So, Chris, you have TPOCs within your division that work on different Sbir awards. So I'm still, as I mentioned before, right, I'm still painting this big picture of Sbir, right? So Pat could come up with the need and submit the topic or the topic, and then somebody in Chris's division is actually the technical piece that understands how to build, or be the technical point of contact to actually support that small business that's working on that idea. So, of course, yes, please do.
Before we get past the doctor,
Yes.
I'm gonna try to articulate this right. All right, I understand how you can come up with topics. You got you got guys like Jack and Noah and Teresa who see things different than folk. I spent a lot of time in the Army. So Jack's got a good idea that it's a component of an overall system that we're going to build. But we need somebody to help us get to the end zone. Is there a way that we could bring to you topics that we think would be beneficial to both the Navy, the Air Force, or somebody that you could look at and say, yeah, that's something that we really, really need, and maybe we make that a topic?
So I'd say from some of the topics I've put in the past, or ones that are coming up, could be something from, you know, we're at a conference and we kind of know what our needs are, and you start talking to, you know, various people at this conference, and they say, oh yeah, here's my new tech and this, and it, you know, kind of gets the ideas spinning, and okay, this might be a perfect thing. You know, obviously we're not doing, you know, like pre-selections or whatever, like, oh yeah, so-and-so came in here and we're going to put this topic because we're, you know, giving it to them type thing. But in terms of the ideation and, you know, seeing what some of that technology is available out there and seeing where that could fit our gaps and our needs, that plays a large role. So I know even with some of the, it's been, oddly enough, it's been a lot of Air Force Sbir topics where I've had companies reach out to me for mass spec advice and say, hey, like, you know, we're thinking about going in this direction. Do you think this would fit this process? You know, and I'm not involved in their Sbir whatsoever, but it's, hey, yeah, I think, you know, this would help her, you know. So a lot of times it is that communication piece that, you know, people will reach out to us and ask for, you know, hey, would this fit your widget? I guess, I don't know if that totally answered your question.
So I'm the bridge, yes. And so I have had companies come to me and ask that specific question of, I have this product and I'm looking for funding. Is there any way to work with the Sbir project? Yes, there is. dodsbir.com, and find a Sbir that aligns with your technology, your product, because dodsbir.com is going to give you all of the Sbirs, right? So it's going to give you Air Force, Navy, Department of Energy, like every facility that has a Sbir program, and you can search by your focus area. And that would be my recommendation. And then you reach out to them and say, hey, we want to build off of the Sbir, just like we were talking about building off of Sbirs earlier. And you can potentially do that as either a phase 2, or you can take that Sbir and say, hey, I know that this stopped at phase 2, but I have potential to take it into phase 3, and you can initiate that process.
We actually had one of those recent years that we worked with an Air Force Sbir project where we were building a new software that required like a whole bunch of integration with additional DoD and Intel software. And this company reached out and said, hey, we've done something similar for like DIA. Okay, well, let's see what they did, right? And it ended up being able to use that, do a direct to phase 3 off of this Air Force Sbir that was still kind of, it was pretty close to similar to what that was, and we just bridged that and took off with it. It's still in the works right now. I think that's actually transitioning to Navy Sbir now, right?
Oh, yes, that one. Yeah, we were
The
talking about
Warpath
that
one?
one this morning. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Chris, do you have anything to add about as far as like coming up with topic generation for new ideas for gaps to fill?
Yeah, so this is one of the directives we've been doing in our division this next year. That's kind of a plan, right, is not just Sbir, but OTA too, right? Because it's, why not write a bunch of white papers? Because we have a ton of needs. Someone alluded, I think it was you, Tammy, earlier about DRP, right? We have too many projects and not enough people to execute those projects. So we know we're going to have to, rely on small business. We also have had a lot of success with smaller business, really small, innovative companies, way outperform the primes for the kind of work that we need them for. So our goal right now is just to get ahead of it, right? If we have something we need to do, we're going to put proposals out. That's what we're going to, or proposals or proposals, I guess, right? Same thing for an OTA.
Correct. And just from the Sbir program perspective, for topic generation, even though we have our workforce that throws out these topics, they're not always selected, right? So, we could have 20 topics that come from NOCWD, and maybe only 10 get selected. That's the frustration with the Sbir program. And one thing that we've really been working hard on our side is to get more of our NOCWD topics selected. However, when our workforce has a topic that really addresses a head herder for our command, we will really push and go, do all we can, go to the trenches for that topic to be selected. We don't do that for every topic, but if it's like, hey, you know what, we got these 3 that really need to be selected for proposal, then we'll do that. But just trying to make the point that not every topic that our workforce generates is selected for the Sbir program.
All right. So I have to say, Angela really ruined my questions because she answered a ton of this stuff that I came up with last night. So let's see. Have you seen any just kind of mistakes that small companies make that sort of hurt their chances of going from phase 1 to phase 2 or not getting selected at all? I know Tammy's probably the one gonna.
Sorry, I'm just hogging the mic here. Yes. So we've had TPOC panels for Sbir 101s before, and I think that a lot of great information came from those panels. One thing is, don't oversell your company. Be honest about the work that you do. Be honest about the personnel that work for you, because we are going to research and we are going to find out. So if you have foreign nationals that work for your company, be honest about it. If you're working with other bigger primes on a particular focus area, be honest about it. there's nothing worse than having a TPOC go through all the proposals that might be submitted for their topic, and they select 3 and then find out this company isn't anything what it says it is. Also, the other thing that we've run into is welcome to the world of AI. There are companies out there that chat GPT their Sbir and STTR proposals and think that, and all they do is like enter keywords, and we figure it out, we find out, and it just really wastes our time. And it's not fair to the other honest companies that have done their homework and have really like gone and made the effort with their whole team to submit a Sbir proposal. And those are becoming more common, we're finding, and it's just very frustrating. The other thing and this will be my last point, is so we had a TPOC panel, and one of our TPOCs said, so there's like a Q&A period when the companies can come to the TPOC and they can ask questions. And one of the rules for that is they have to provide the same answer to all of the companies so that there's a level playing field. And he said during that Q&A process that he didn't answer his phone. And you would think like, well, that's not very helpful, right? We're supposed to be developing partnerships here. But the reason was he wanted the companies to leave him a voicemail with their question so that he could go back to his topic and generate an answer that could be shared with all of the companies. I thought that was really great information and really powerful, because I could see like small businesses being like, this guy never answers his phone. So if things like that happen, perhaps there's a reason. And also all of our TPOCs have day jobs, right? So we're all going 100 miles an hour, and then they have given up part of their time to help support this program. So leave a voicemail and let them get back to you.
So there's one thing that I would say would be helpful is to really understand the security clearance and facility security clearance requirements, right? We've had several that get derailed a little bit because of that, right? And there's differences between the services, right? If you think you're on the government side of the DD-254, right, there's a lot of that plays on that we have to figure out. But if it's not laying straight, you may have thought, hey, it was good with the Air Force. At this level, it'll be fine with the Navy. Might not be the case, right? So get a really good security person on staff, I think, is probably really beneficial, especially nowadays, right? Nowadays, everything's getting elevated at higher levels.
So, and sorry, I know. I always tell companies when I'm at conferences and we talk about Sbir, if you really want to just get into a Sbir and get some experience with a Sbir, Air Force Sbirs are easy. but I mean, odds are you might not make it through your phase 2 or do a phase 3. Navy, we scrutinize, and it's a little harder. So my recommendation there is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Because eventually you will find the secret sauce that cracks that Sbir open for you and you get one. But yes, Air Force is easy, Navy a little harder, but it'll stand the duration.
The only other thing from like the proposal and from some of the other Sbir 101 things were make sure you have like the team that can really work towards, so again, mass spectrometrists, that's the sensor on it, UAV, things like that. So if you have a whole team of UAV folks, but no one can spell mass spec, it's going to come through in that team. So, that's where a lot of times it's partnering with academics, because again, on some of these ones where I've helped out with from the small business that won it, they're asking questions like that, like, oh crap, like, is there a commercial mass spec that I could put on this thing? And you're like, wait, how did you win this if you didn't, like, no, oh, this is horrible. And thinking of some of the other ones that come through from like the basic research side where, we do biofuels, for example. So now we need to scale it up because we can do it at a small scale. So, okay, this is going to the small scale or the small business. So again, if your whole team is chemical engineers and you can scale up, pharmaceuticals, that's great. But do you have any idea how to work with the bugs, at that scale, or do you know how to work with bugs at all? So kind of having that team and not going in doing the chat GPT of like, here's what my answer is going to be. Then you get the award and then it's like, oh crap, what is bacteria? That sometimes happens as well. So that would be my other suggestion, to really make sure that you get into your phase 2s and your phase 3s.
Do any of you have a success story or something that stands out with a specific Sbir award that you could share?
So I'm going to ruin this for Thomas Tatch Aguilar, but he had a great Sbir that I think even going into the beginning of his phase 2, interest was brought in by the UK. I think right now I want to say he has like $10 million plus on a Sbir that he did, and I think it was a direct to phase 2. So that's one of the success stories. It's the maritime lethality analysis tool, if anybody wants to Google that. But Thomas Tatch Aguilar has been very successful with that, and it's done a lot to support the warfighter and the fleet.
Anybody else? Got one, Pat?
Sure. Not one that, I was directly involved in, but I know we have 2 pieces of equipment in our lab right now that were generated from Sbirs, and now they have the commercial product. So that was kind of cool, and we're working with that company. So we had, 2 of the first prototypes that were commercially sold. And again, that kind of goes back to that, going to the conferences and seeing things. So, we're at the conference, they were presenting this technology. It was really good for my lab. So we reached out and they're like, oh yeah, we're completing this Sbir, we're doing this. Here's, our technology. Oh, when is it going to be commercially available? Oh yeah, we could sell you one. The first prototype. We're like, great, give it to me. Like, this is really going to help my research. So we have 2 pieces of equipment right now in our lab that actually has transitioned into, again, our R&D.
The one I mentioned earlier, I think would be a good one, the Warpath project, which was a direct to phase 3 Air Force Sbir. That one is now an enterprise level software tool, right? Tens of millions of dollars applied to it, and it's going to be used for decades.
Nice. That was very successful because I got the call for that, and it was like, we're going to take this Air Force Sbir and we're going to transition it to Navy, and we're going to put $8 million on it. It was like some large amount, maybe not large to some of you, but that was pretty large for and it's turned out to be a great success.
So how does that work, Tammy? It went through the Air Force,
I think
Sbir, through to the end, and then we decided what we could make it even better and give it more money and improve on it, or how does that work?
When we went through the Air Force, right, there's a lot of nuance here, right, that we were working through an Air Force contracting officer, right, in that shop that was handling that product, and that was a lot of risk on our part, right, because they were kind of doing it as a favor and willing to help the warfighter. But we knew eventually, us being a Naval Warfare Development Center, right, we needed to bring it here, right? So that's why we chose to transition it off. It could have stayed that way because it is a joint project,
Right.
but it's just a lot of risk.
All right. Awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes.
We did respond to an Air Force Sbir. Don't know if we haven't heard back. That's why I asked the question, when will we hear back? But one of the things is as a kinetic interceptor type organization where you're responding to a Department of War type Sbir, getting the commercial value or the commercial benefits to something like that into a Sbir, we were struggling real hard to do that. You got any suggestions?
So I think Kate probably said in her brief, so we have 3 criteria when we're going through the Sbir proposals that the TPOCs evaluate on. It's merit, personnel, and the third is commercialization potential. And that's the dual use capability. And the reason for that, the reason that that's one of our criteria is because that's, again, evaluating the potential for the phase 3 and trying to help our small business partners have the other options, like Pat said, that maybe your technology, once you develop it, we don't want it to necessarily be only government. We want you to have the dual use capability to commercialize or, and get picked up by a program of record. If I've seen if a project doesn't have dual use, I mean, they're still evaluated and they can still be selected because, like you said, sometimes it's just a government product. But we do evaluate on that criteria and take that into consideration highly when we're selecting. Advice. I think that, I'm not a really technical person, but sometimes I've seen companies take the technology that they developed through a Sbir and transform it a bit to make it more of a commercialization product. So that's always an option if that's viable.
Only other thing I would maybe say is kind of see what like the academics are doing in that area, because they're probably not all DOW funded, so they probably have some other niche area that might help you with it.
All right, that's all I have, unless you guys have any more questions. I know we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I lost my small business guy, so.
Hello. So if you have an SBR like STTR project, is there like funding that you can't get if you have this? Like, does having this like make it so you can't do other things at the same time, or how does that work?
I don't think so.
Oh, so you can just.
You can't double dip like from the same funding. Like, so you can't submit the same project for. You can submit it for two different uses to two different agencies for different purposes, but it can't be like I'm submitting it for the exact same thing across two different topics and get the award. It's like they cancel it out because they want to have more opportunity to get more technology. From what I understand. Yep.
Great question, Phoebe. Thank you for that. All right, you guys have any last minute additions to the conversation? Yes, Anna.
So Todd asked earlier about like the change in defense acquisition and acquisition reform, and there was like the new defense acquisition strategy that was released. And if you guys don't follow Neil McDonnell on LinkedIn, you should. It's like GovCon Chamber, puts out incredible stuff and synthesizes it really well. But like with that information and then knowing about the key or critical technologies that are being really pushed forward by Department of Defense, do you guys have very specific areas among those critical key emerging technologies or critical technologies that you focus on versus another part of DoD, and is that like front and center of your potential forecasting, like how you're going to come up with the future topics to help businesses figure out where they should be focusing on and think about things before the topic comes out?
I mean, yeah, pretty much every warfare center or service has their own specialty niches, and even thinking from like an energetics perspective, you have us, you have Indian Head, you have Crane does some work with hypersonics, but if you kind of look into what everyone kind of has their bucket and expertise, I would say. So again, if you kind of look at what's being patented and published and things like that is probably a good place to kind of see where that and some of the buckets are kind of hard-lined, and other buckets are kind of fluid where hey, we work with them on this and they work on this, but they're really the leads in XYZ and we're the other tail end of the piece. So yeah.
I would say Google the NOCWD strategic plan every year, right? That's going to come out as open source, and every proposal we're going to put, if my workforce is putting a proposal together, it has to align to something in that strategic plan.
And so speaking of the strategic plan, so we have 4 focus areas. They're air wing, interoperability and integration, advanced LVC, live virtual constructive, integrated spectrum warfare, and weapon system development transformation. So I get an A. No. No. We always get up on stage and your mind is like, I'm not going to remember all 4. So these come from our leadership, right? These were our strategic plan. They really put a lot of effort in there. And so these focus areas are also trickling down from what we're getting from CNO, and all the people in higher places. So that's what we make our topics align with. If someone submits a topic, they are required in their submission to put what focus area it aligns to. So yeah, so basically what Chris said. And it's available online, the NOCWD strategic plan.
All right, with that, thank you guys. Appreciate your expertise. Now you're on my list, so I'll be in touch. Thank you guys so much. Great questions. Appreciate your participation and look forward to doing this again. So thank you.
Thank you.